Welcome to Evolve Through God. This next episode with Dr. Kevin Spencer was recorded prior to the outbreak of the Ebola virus in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda. So our heart goes out to his family and relatives who are currently in Uganda, and we are praying for their safety. Please keep their family in mind. And also the clinic that he discusses in this particular podcast, if you'd like to support the efforts in the area, you can follow the links online and provide some financial assistance. Thank you so much for listening to Evolve Through God, and let's bring on Dr. Kevin Spencer. Welcome to Evolve Through God. I have Kevin Spencer back, and I am so stoked.
And I am too. I'm so happy to be back.
I know, my gosh, I'm so excited. I had such a great time in the first episode talking to you and you sharing your story with everyone so they could see how much God has worked in your life and then how much you've sacrificed, right, through the work that God has asked you to do. And we left out, of course, everything that had to do with like your world travels and the work you're currently doing in Uganda. And that needs to be shared. Like that needs to be shared because you selflessly sacrificed your life to help people who needed your help. And so I'm not quite sure where to start with that.
Me either. I do want to start off by saying I'm just so appreciative of you giving me the space to kind of talk about these things because I look at them as just such remarkable gifts from God that he's kind of given in my life, positioned in my life. You know, if you would have asked me even, 10, 15 years ago, Kevin, where do you think you're going to be 10 years from now? This is not the place I thought I would be.
Isn't it funny how that happens to us? Isn't that funny?
It is. And, we were just talking about the fact that sometimes God is working not sometimes, God is always working in our lives. Sometimes we know it, sometimes we don't, sometimes we feel it, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense at all what God is doing. And I know throughout my life, I've stopped and just kind of went, God, little clarification, please. Or,
what does he say to you in those moments? That's what I want to know. Because when I ask those questions, I don't always get a good answer.
No, sometimes it's the silence, and the silence is even worse.
Oh boy.
You know what? And God just put this in my head again. I think the answer that I always get from God in those moments is like, hold on.
Yeah.
Just wait. Just hold on.
Be patient.
Be patient. Do what you're doing and just hold on.
Yeah.
And so I get super excited because I don't know what hold on means sometimes. Does hold on mean, hold on because we're just getting started? Or does it mean hold on because we're wrapping this thing up? Or, what does it mean? What does that mean?
Oh my gosh.
And you know what's so cool about that is that's so fitting to my personality. I love how God talks to us in the way that he made us.
Yes. And in absolutely the way that only we will understand.
Absolutely. And that still small voice that hits your brain and hits your heart, there's absolutely no question that that's God.
Yeah. There's a great gentleman, and I can't think of his name to save my life. I'll put it in the show notes. But he actually has helped people to learn that voice is God's voice. Because so many of us, and I know myself included, question that. It's like, did I just make that up? Did I just say that for myself? Or was that actually God talking to me? So he has this whole system of starting out in your conversation with God, how to physically write down the questions and wait for the answers. And then write them down. Yeah, he's extraordinary. He's in Australia. He's the coolest. I want to get him on the show someday.
Yeah, that would be great.
Right, exactly. So, but I love that you said that because God does talk to us in a way that only we will understand.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
firm believer in that.
All right. So for the first episode, we talked all about we talked all about your career in magic. We talked about your career and the programs that you're doing with autistic children. We talked about some of your travel, although not much of that. And I want to make sure that the listeners get a feel for when God put you in this new direction. Like, what was the moment where you were like, oh, this is what's next?
Oh, that's a scary moment sometimes, right?
Yes. Yes.
I think we talked about in the last episode the fact that we were booked pretty far in advance, and God, through a series of experiences over a summer, that He allowed me to teach and to experience what the power of a simple magic trick in the hands of a child or an adolescent or an adult with a disability, just how transformative that experience could be. And when I came back home, that God had spoken so clearly to me in that moment that this was where I was going.
Wow.
And so having that conversation with my wife of just saying, I think it's time. I think this is where we're going. And you know what's so funny? As we talk about the way God talks to us, I was sitting down with a friend who's a professional in the industry. He's an executive director of a performing arts center, a fairly large one. And I had worked with him for a number of years. And I was sitting down and we were having lunch. And I told him, I said, Todd, you know what? I think it's time. I think it's time for me to start to transition away from this big theatrical illusion experience and move toward these smaller stages in classrooms and hospitals. And he looked at me and he went, duh. And he said, you know what? He said, there's a handful of us who have been watching your career. And I just wondered if God was going to have to take a 2x4 and hit you upside the head.
Well, he'll do that too.
Yes, he will. Because he said, because all of us have been watching your passion change towards this direction. And we all knew this was going to happen. We were just waiting for you to catch up to it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And so my wife, I think my wife was she was very excited about this transition. She'd been on the road with the show for 30 years. She was ready to settle in. I think, we had lived in Virginia. We had owned this house for 22 years. And when we retired, we figured out that we'd only actually lived in the house for about 2.5 years of those 22 years.
What?
Because we were,
because we years out of 22. You're kidding me.
No, because we had just been on the road so much.
Wow.
So she was ready to nest and to really make a house our home. And I will say now, that's her gift. That what I absolutely love, and I was sharing this with her yesterday because, I live in a hotel room.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where I spend a good portion of my time. And she has taken our house in Arkansas and just made it into this respite, this beautiful, peaceful place that everywhere I look, I see her, but I also see her love for me because she goes out of her way to make sure that it's peaceful and ordered. Because I'm a little OCD, right?
Yeah, and then when you get home, it becomes your sanctuary.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. That's so.
And I get to share that sanctuary with her.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's pretty exciting. So when we made this shift, God just really, once we made this decision, the doors just started to open because we both thought, okay, we're gonna retire the Big Illusion show. And it's going to take a little while to get this new sort of business, this new sort of focus time to develop. It's going to take some time to develop. Well, it didn't. It was just like we said, okay, God, this is what we're going to do. And God said, okay, here it is. And then the schedule and here's the most interesting part of that. People didn't even know what they were buying. Like people that I had worked with for decades in the performing arts industry, when I made the announcement that I was transitioning over into this educational healthcare sort of outreach.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember being at a trade show and one after another just coming into my booth and saying, okay, so you're not doing the show anymore. Tell me what this is. And I would say, I don't know. And they go, okay, well, how many days do I need to book?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go, I don't know. And they'd say, okay, well, let's just do this. Put me down for 5 days and we'll figure it out. And I'm like, sounds like a deal to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just this idea that God had allowed us to build this level of trust in an industry. And
Okay. Yes, and it is a testament to who you are as a person, Kevin. So let's look at it that way. We all have our own free will. We've all been given that by God, and to use it as we deem we want to use it. And I think you got to give yourself a little bit of credit for being an amazing steward of your own free will, that people would just look at you and say, we trust you so much, Kevin, that we know that
yeah,
you are going to be this perfect fit for what we need. So give yourself a little bit of credit
well,
there, if you will. I love how much humility you have and how humble you are, but I think we got to give you a little bit of credit for your use of free will and how amazing it is.
well,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. So they buy into this concept of you coming to present to whatever they
Their
need.
community to their
Yeah.
community, and we're just going to tie into their community, whether that's working with special education students in the school system, or whether that's like tying into a military group or a hospital structure. We figured all of this out as we went. And it's so funny because today it's much better. But 5 years ago, when I did my last kind of trade show, because I just don't, God has brought us to this place where we just don't need to do that
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
People would just come in and they would say, all right, put me down for this week. Send me a contract. Tell me how much it's going to be and we'll figure it out.
Mm.
And I can remember the people in like booths next to me coming up to me going, dude, what do you do?
Who are you? Everybody wants
Yeah.
you.
And I'm like, well, so I'm kind of this hybrid thing. And they
Mhm.
go, well, I just hear one person after another coming in and saying, oh, yeah, put me down for this week and we'll figure it out. What does that mean? Figure it out. What does that even mean? It's like, yeah, you know what? And you're right. It is a level of trust that they have in me and that I have in them,
Yeah.
that we're going to do these things that reach their community.
Yeah.
So today, that's where we are. I mean, I get to travel and I teach in a different city almost every week. I teach at a different university
Mm-hmm.
every couple of weeks. So I come in as a guest lecturer and I talk about to special educators. I talk about arts integrated interventions to reach kids with disabilities. To medical students, I talk about the likability and what magicians and doctors share in what we do. And they're kind of like, especially the like third year
Yeah.
medical students are like,
Yeah.
dude, you're a magician. We don't, what do you mean?
Yeah, we
what
don't do
share?
magic. We don't do magic
We don't
around
do
here.
magic.
We don't do
But
magic.
it's that, yeah. But it is the whole idea about what a magician has to do and what a doctor has to do. As a performer, I've got 30, maybe 60 seconds when I walk on a stage for the audience to decide whether they like me or not, and whether they're going to go on this ride with me for the next couple of hours.
Mhm.
Well, a doctor is the same thing. When they walk into a room, it's a performance. They knock on that door, they take a deep breath, they open the door, they come in and go, hi, I'm Dr. Spencer. How are you today? What's going on? And that patient gives them 30, 60 seconds to decide whether they like that guy.
Oh, I think that's a lot. I don't know. I don't think they give you that much time.
Probably not. And if they don't like you, they're not going to do what you ask them to do. But if they like you, they trust you, compliance goes up. I mean, they're just more willing to do the things that they need to do to get better if they like you. So I get to talk to med students about all of that. I get to work with graduate occupational therapy students across the country, teaching them the therapeutic application of magic tricks in a clinical setting. And so God is just kind of like,
That's so amazing. That's so tell me where has that taken you? And I know a little bit about this because we spent 2 hours on a plane together and we talked about all this because I was asking a million questions. So where did that take you in your travels?
so I think I just checked off my 67th country
Holy
that,
holy. That you've
right,
done this
where,
work in 67 different countries you've done this work in. That's
yeah,
incredible. No, he's
crazy.
200 years old, people, okay? I just want you to know. He's
It
not.
is
No, he's not.
crazy.
He's much older than he looks, but he's not he's not he's not what you would think in order to do this work in 67 countries.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
really amazing. I remember probably one of the most memorable experiences for me is it's amazing how God uses you in different places. So I've been invited to speak, to present at a special education conference in Namibia, Africa, kind of sub-Saharan South Africa. And it was an international special education conference on a university campus. So all of these people were in from all over the world. And at that meeting, I met two professors from David Yellen University in Jerusalem. And they were like, you need to come to Israel and spend some time with us.
Mm.
So the next kind of time out, I went to Israel and I spent some time with them. And I spoke at both in their classrooms and at a conference. And I met this guy from Russia. And this guy from Russia said, you need to come to Russia and work with us around our disability population. So he booked me to speak at the first World Congress for Persons with Disabilities in Russia. So
Wow.
I'm super excited to go to this
And
big,
what
it's
year
like,
was this?
this was 2017.
Okay, so not that long ago. Not that long ago.
No, not that
First
long
World
ago.
Congress Conference for People with Disabilities happened in 2017. That is really
Yeah,
sad that it was not that long ago. Anyway, go ahead.
I agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
So I'm a couple of months out, and then I get this phone call from the State Department. And they're like, we understand you're going to Russia. And I'm thinking, ooh, is this going to be a problem? You know? And I said, I am. I'm going over to do a series of workshops. So the US Embassy asked me if I could stay for another 10 days and do a series of workshops with organizations that they serve in Russia that work with people with disabilities.
Okay.
So this was the first time I heard about this concept that our embassies around the world, as a part of their program mission statement, sometimes identify disability or trauma as a part of their work.
Okay.
So now I have this opportunity. I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. So I agree. I said, yes, I would love to stay for an extra 10 days in Russia and do this work with the embassy.
Yeah.
So now and the State Department, they're very formal, right?
I mean, and in
It's
2017, it was like Russia and the US were having some moments together back in 2017. Yeah.
we were having some big moments,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's so much so that they said to me, so where are you staying when you get there? And I gave them the name of the hotel and they said, oh, no, you can't stay there. That's not embassy security protocol approved. We'll make your hotel reservations.
Oh,
I said,
wow.
okay. And it's like, well, how are you planning to get around when you're there? So, well, during the conference, I was just going to use like conference transportation. And they were like, oh, no, you can't do that because that's not embassy security protocol approved. We're going to give you a
Wow.
driver from the embassy to make
So
sure
they
that you
were
can get
worried. They
to.
were worried for your safety that you would be picked up as a political prisoner. Oh, wow.
Yes,
Oh, geez.
so, but
Okay.
at the same time, they really supported these organizations that were serving people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So I get there. It's a phenomenal experience. The conference was amazing. And then I get into this time with the embassy work, and they've just welcomed a new consulate general into the consulate in Yekaterinburg. And Dr. Carter and I hit it off right away. And his wife was a special education teacher, so
Mm-hmm.
she like understood my work. And they're like, "Hey, can we go with you like on one of these things?" And I'm like, the consulate general is asking me if he can come along. When it's like, of course you can. So we go off and they hang out for a couple of days with me. And over the course of the next 10 days, I end up doing it's something like 42 or 43 television and newspaper interviews with the media across Russia.
Wow.
And it's all like super positive. And the experiences with the people are really amazing. And again, State Department's so formal. I get back home and I'm like ecstatic about what this trip has been. And I
Mhm.
get this email from the State Department that is anything but formal. And it just starts off with wow, 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 and all these exclamation points. And they said, we've never had a program, a speaker's program, as successful as your time in Russia. And if we could bottle this as diplomacy, we would
Mm.
never have to build another missile.
Oh,
And it was phenomenal. And so since that time, I've been back to Russia, I think 5 or 6 times, and
wow.
just continued the work. So that opened other opportunities for me to go to other countries to work with organizations our embassy supports there. So really
Wow.
phenomenal. God just opened this amazing opportunity to 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 work with people in other countries, which kind of guess circles us around to Uganda.
Yeah.
Because that
Yeah.
you know this is a project that's very dear to me. Um, a colleague of mine, a professional colleague, educator, a university professor, had been invited to Uganda to work with teachers, to teach teachers how to work with kids with disabilities.
Mm.
Now, this is a big deal
And
because in
was this
Uganda,
2017 also?
so this is around 2013.
Okay, so this is before that. Okay. Okay.
So this is around 2013. And I'm still performing as a magician, and
Okay.
I'm just getting into like the deep dive into this work. And I've just finished my master's degree in, arts and interdisciplinary academic education. So I feel like I'm both an artist and an academic, which is a
Love
real
it.
world,
Love it.
strange world to live in. So in Uganda, they had just signed on to the United Nations Convention for Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the UNCRPD. And as many of these developing countries did, they signed it believing that maybe there was going to be money attached to it. There
Mm.
wasn't. It was just they were making a commitment to treat people with disabilities with respect. Well, in Uganda, that was not a thing.
Oh,
In Uganda, if you were a woman who gave birth to a child with a disability, often, many times, especially in the rural areas, the baby would be killed.
what?
Sometimes, yes, sometimes the baby and the mother would be killed.
Oh my
And
God.
if they weren't killed, they were placed outside of the village and they would just have to
Totally
fend for themselves,
ostracized.
totally ostracized.
Oh my
So there
God.
were so many women who had given birth to kids with disabilities who were hiding these children in their huts
Oh.
for fear. So my first trip down, I met 7, 8, 9-year-old kids who'd never been out of their hut for fear that they would be killed when
Wow.
somebody recognized they had a disability.
And
So you can
what kind of disabilities did they have, Kevin?
So we're talking about things like maybe intellectual disabilities, Down
Okay.
syndrome, cerebral palsy,
Okay.
spina bifida, all of
So
these
they were
things that
hiding all of those severe disabilities, and
yeah.
that's so horrible.
And because healthcare, access to healthcare in these really remote areas is
Yeah.
also really difficult.
Yeah.
These women were just kind of left to fend for themselves.
Wow.
So now Uganda signs on to the UNCRPD and they've made this commitment to treat people with disabilities differently, but they don't know how because their teachers have never been trained.
Hmm.
Even their doctors didn't fully understand the causes of disability. In in the rural areas, they didn't know. They just thought of it as a curse. The
Right.
mother must be cursed.
Right.
So we got to come in and say, look, there is a biological reason why a child is born with a disability.
Hmm.
Prenatal care is so important. Folic acid is so important. So we got to start training in these villages, the mothers, on what they need to do to take care of themselves during their,
Yeah, gestation
pregnancy.
period. Yeah. Hmm.
And we also got to teach the men you are responsible for the health of your wife
Yes.
and that baby, which means you need to also make some sacrifices during this gestation period.
Yeah.
And then we got to work with teachers to teach teachers how to teach these kids. So these kids living in huts could come out and get an education. So that opened so many
That's
doors.
so huge.
Huge, huge. I'm so thankful to Susan O'Rourke for the opportunity to join her on that trip.
Yeah.
And we were slammed. We were doing full day professional development trainings for teachers all across the country. And some of these teachers would walk 2 or 3 days to get to a training. That's
Wow.
how valuable it was for them. So I would go back to my hut at the end of the day, and there was an orphanage next to the place where I was staying in Entebbe. And I would go over and play with the kids in the orphanage. And I met this amazing boy named Eddie. He was probably about 10 or 11. And we hit it off. I mean, we played every day pretty much together, and we just really, really hit it off. And so I came home and I told my wife, I met this kid, and I think he's a smart kid. I think we should sponsor him. He's in an orphanage. Let's sponsor him and get him into a school, because I think he could do really well. And I was going down a lot at this point, every year, sometimes twice a year. So I got to see Eddie a lot.
Yeah.
And probably when he was around 13, maybe, he said, hey, would it be all right if I called you Dad?
Oh. Oh. Wow.
And my wife and I don't have biological children. So, that's just not a word I ever thought that I was going to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so special.
So, So I said, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It would be okay. And then our bond just grew and grew. And so we just brought him into our family. And now, now he's just this amazing kid, not a kid. He's 27 years old, and he's a college graduate, and he has a good job, and he's married to a really lovely woman who supports him, and they just gave me my first grandchild. So it's just so special to have that connection. They still live in Uganda. They're back in Uganda, to have that connection there. So the one thing that God really impressed upon me is you can't even begin to work with disability until you get at the root causes of disability.
Yes.
And the root cause of disability in Uganda is lack of access to clean water.
Wow.
So we started raising money, like from every friend we had. We were all begging, borrowing, help me drill a well, help me drill a well. And so now we've been drilling wells since about, 2017, maybe.
Wow.
And
almost 10
and we've
years.
almost 10 years. Yeah. And we try to drill 3 wells a year every time I go. So I'm heading down on May the 26th.
Okay.
And we've raised enough money for 2 wells. We're asking God to help us raise money for that last well. But we are also, on June the 2nd, we are celebrating the grand opening of a health clinic in a rural region of Uganda that's going to serve thousands of people who right now don't have access to health care. And it's so beautiful because this is this building, this is an awesome building. And we didn't build it. Ugandans built it. They're so invested, right?
Oh, yeah.
Even when we drill a well, it's a Ugandan team that comes in and drills the well, because it's Ugandans bringing water to Ugandans. The last thing they need is some white person, some Westerner coming in and saying, hey, let us drill you a well. There needs to be that ownership, that really commitment to take care of it. So when we started building, and again, I didn't raise the money for the health clinic. So I think it was in 2022, we had a family go down with us on that trip, and they caught the vision of building this clinic. But this work is difficult.
Yeah.
And I volunteered to project manage that clinic for them since I was still going down a lot. And along the way, they got disillusioned and they pulled out of the project. but it was only about 25% built. And here's an entire region of the country excited about having
that
access to
needs it.
healthcare.
Yeah.
Yeah, the need that's there, they're right now they have to go like 3 hours to get, to get to a doctor.
Wow.
So I was having this wonderful conversation in December with David Copperfield, and I mentioned to him that we needed this money to finish the clinic. And he goes, "Well, how much do you need?" And I told him, and he goes, "I'll give you that."
Wow.
And I'm like, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'll give you that. Let me, give me your bank information and I'll send that down to you."
Wow.
And so right? So he did.
Wow.
So this clinic is going to have its grand opening on June 2nd because of the generosity of the Stamper family who caught this vision, and David Copperfield, who also believed in the possibilities of what this could bring to Uganda. And the really cool thing about this is David called me a couple weeks ago and he said, "I love how the clinic's coming together. I'm super excited about this. Do you want to build another one?"
That's so
and
amazing.
I'm like, "What?" And he's like, yeah, let's build another one. I'll pay for another one. You find the community.
Wow.
And again, I think this was, he said, I trust you. I trust you with my money. I trust you that you're going to do the right thing with this. So you identify the village and let's build another one.
Is he gonna go to Uganda and see the clinic at all?
I've asked him to come, so he's not going to come this year, but maybe next year, maybe next summer, he'll come along and kind of check it out, see what it's like.
Oh, good.
So that's a passion project for sure. Like I said, I'm heading down there, I think on May the 26th, and I'll be down there for a couple of weeks. So we've got, we do the clean water wells. And I love this about what the people that God's brought into my life in Uganda, because I work with the Ugandan drilling company there. There's a lot of great organizations that bring clean water to sub-Saharan Africa, but the wells can be expensive because it's a nonprofit, but every nonprofit has overhead. So for many of these organizations, it costs between $13,000 and $17,000 to drill a clean water well in a community. Because I don't have any overhead. I'm a small nonprofit. It's me and my wife. We don't have any overhead. We don't have any administrative costs or anything like that. So every penny that somebody gives goes directly into the project they choose, whether that's a school or a well or medications or healthcare, whatever it is.
How many more wells need to be drilled down there?
72% of the population of Uganda does not have access to clean water or sanitation.
72%?
So we are talking about thousands of people, hundreds of villages.
And how many people can one well serve?
Typically, we try to drill the wells in a place where they're going to serve anywhere between 800 to 3,000 people.
Okay.
So we work with an engineering team and a hydrology team. That's a Ugandan team. They go to the villages. So we work with boots on the ground, NGOs, Ugandan NGOs, to identify the communities that are in most desperate need, which is an easy task because they all are. And then because we're so limited in the number that we can drill, we look at the ones where drilling a well is going to provide water to the most amount of people. Because right now, it's a woman's responsibility to fetch clean water. So they spend a majority of their day going to a lake or a swamp or a ditch, getting water. Girls drop out of school to help their mothers catch water.
Wow.
So when you can and they spend between 4 and 8 hours a day just getting water back to their homes.
So how much is one well?
$6,000.
$6,000. Okay. And
so half of what everybody else half of
Yes.
what everybody else
Yes.
has
I
to do.
want to make sure that we're clear on the numbers because I would love if the listeners who are hearing this would help your effort in bringing clean water to Uganda. Like
Oh,
72% of the population is a very, very large number. And if you are only at this point in time capable of giving 3 new wells per year, like I want at least double that.
wouldn't that be awesome?
That would
Wouldn't
be
it be awesome?
incredible.
It
Yes.
would be. And my kind of goal down the road is to because I trust my engineering team down
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful because they're, again, 20 something Ugandans with Stephen Ludigo, who is the engineer that kind of manages everything.
Hmm.
These 20 something guys come in, and this is not an easy job to drill a well. I mean, big
No, no.
machines, it's
Yeah.
hard work.
Yeah.
But when they strike water,
Oh, I bet they party.
oh my gosh. And the
Yeah.
pride these men feel in
Hmm.
bringing water to this village and the village, the excitement in the village. I mean, the women are dancing around because they no longer have to walk, you know,
Yeah.
5 miles to a
Yeah.
ditch or to a
Yeah.
lake or to a swamp to get water.
Yeah.
Girls can stay in school because they don't have to help their moms
Yes,
get water
that's what I'm
anymore.
saying. Like this is such this for their economy, for their ecosystem, for their health. I mean, this is
Life changing.
yes.
It's the most dramatic change. I find myself when I come back, things that, brushing my teeth, I find myself now turning the water
Yes.
off while I'm
Yeah, don't
brushing
let
my
the
teeth
water
and then
run.
turn it
Yeah,
back
yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah.
Because those little water bottles. I can remember leaving Uganda and having a water bottle in my backpack.
Hmm.
And as I was going through like TSA security
Hmm.
there,
Hmm.
I forgot that I had that water bottle. And the lady, she pulled it out and she said, "You can't take this." And I said, "Oh, that's right. Okay." And she goes, holding this bottle of water in her hand, she goes, "What are you going to do with this?" I said, "Well, would you like to have it?" And she clutched it.
Yeah,
And she
but
said, are you for real?" I said, "Absolutely, you can have it." And she just teared up and she said, "Water is life. Water is life."
wow.
I'm like, "You're so right." So those things that we just take for granted,
Yeah,
school, access to water, access to sanitation, for 72% of the population of Uganda, they do not have access to that
wow,
at all.
wow.
So, like, even the clinic that's opening up, we had to install a massive solar power system there because
Hmm.
there's no electricity in that part of the country.
Hmm.
And if we want to keep medications refrigerated, then we have to
Yeah,
have power.
yeah,
So it's amazing how much we take for granted here that's so meaningful to the people there.
yeah,
So so yes, for your listeners, it's
yeah.
$6,000 for a well, $500 for a hydrology report. So typically it's about $6,500 for a well. So we can drill a well for half of what most of the other NGOs can drill one.
Yeah. And
So it's
NGO, just for people who don't know what that is, it's non-governmental organization. So just so people who are listening are like,
yeah.
what is that, Kevin? What is
What
that?
are they talking about?
That's what it is. And that it's
And they do good work, right? These guys
they
do
do
good work.
amazing work. And to your point, they have lots of overhead that also
Yeah,
has to get compensated for. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So being able to come in and drill a well, and for some of those villages, like there's this little village called Osunyuk. I love this little village. It's not big, maybe
Hmm.
200 people, 250 people. We have tried 3 times to drill a well, and we just can't get water.
Mm.
So we've discovered these biosand filters that our engineering team in Uganda can install. So
To
we're
let the
hoping this
rainwater.
summer to put
Hmm.
like 8 or 10 of these biosand filters so they can collect rainwater. They can go and get water out of a swamp
Yeah, and
and run
pass
it
it
through
through
a
those.
bio,
Yep.
and it
Hmm.
removes 99.2% of all of the bacteria and
Yeah.
parasites in the
Yeah.
water.
That's amazing.
I work in regions of that country where the kids take baths in the water, and many of them develop river blindness because of the parasites in the
Wow.
water
Wow.
that go in and start to damage their
Mhm.
corneas. And something as easy as 6 pills of ivermectin caught
Yeah.
early enough can prevent that from happening.
Wow.
So, we're raising money for medications
I
for
was
the
going to
clinic.
say, I want to make sure that's clear too. So once the clinic is open, obviously you'll be also raising money for medication, operation of the
Yeah.
clinic, all of the things that go into that.
Yeah, we have a nurse, we have a doctor. So super, super excited about that. We're building so in the clinic, we have an exam room, we have a hematology room, we have a laboratory, a full lab where they can run tests, malaria, HIV/AIDS,
Wow.
all of it. And then there's a pharmacy built into the clinic. It's all right there in one place. Some of the lab equipment is expensive. A
Yeah.
centrifuge
Oh, yeah.
in Uganda, super expensive.
Yeah.
We're taking down simple things like my wife just last night bought 2 stethoscopes and 4 blood pressure machines, and we spent less than $100. If I had to buy that in Uganda,
Oh, I can't
it,
imagine how
it,
expensive
it
it
would
would be
be
there.
tons.
Yeah.
But $100, like 100 USD in Uganda in a pharmacy, oh my gosh, we'll buy so much medication. Like if I walked in with $1,000 into the pharmacy,
Yeah.
I could stock this entire pharmacy at the clinic with everything that
Wow.
they needed for a year.
Well, I hope that everybody is listening to that. I want to make sure that we include in the show notes the links on where they can find you and are able to donate. Prior to the release of this episode, I'm going to do some postings about it so that it happens too before you go down there. Um,
The best website for that is projectcleanwaterafrica.com.
okay. All right, great. I'll make sure that we have that in there. We have come to the end of our second episode.
Oh my
I
gosh,
want
this
to
is
ask you,
awesome.
I know, but I want to ask you after you go to Uganda, can we talk again and do another one?
Absolutely.
Trip down there?
Yes,
Okay. All right, great.
absolutely. That'd
I
be
would,
awesome.
yeah, God is using you in such amazing ways, and I want to make sure that the listeners get an opportunity to get a follow-up conversation on the work that you're doing down there as well. So, and the next phase of
Wow.
your life is coming too. So we're probably just going to have to stay in touch regardless. Because
um,
who knows how God is going to be using you next, my friend.
you know what? Isn't it exciting?
Yes.
Isn't it exciting just to be able to sit back and say, what's, especially at this phase of my life where I thought I'd be slowing down and,
Oh
you
no.
know,
No, no.
yeah, no,
No,
God is
you're
so
gonna live
good.
to 120 for sure. And he's gonna use you every step of the way. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the platform. Thank you so much for just
Yeah.
the opportunity to share.
I'm just grateful that he crossed our paths together and that neither of us operated in our introverted selves that day so that we could get all of this out in the open. So I am grateful for you coming on. Do you have any parting words you'd like to leave with the listeners before we go?
I think it bounces off something you and I talked about before we jumped on, and that's just be still and listen.
Hmm.
God speaks to us in the ways that we know, in the ways that He created us, in the ways that are meaningful to us. And the way God speaks to you and the way God speaks to me may be two very different ways. And so I would encourage people, be still. It's so difficult in today's age just to step back and take a breath,
Mhm.
but be still and ask God, what do you want
Yeah.
from me?
Yeah.
What do you want from me?
Yeah.
And then listen to what that is.
Yeah. So good. So good. Kevin, thank you yet again. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to I look forward to our third edition at some point in time. I want to thank all the
Post
listeners.
Uganda.
I know, right? Post Uganda. So I want to thank all the listeners for listening to this episode, and we will catch you on the next one.